That is Cullen's highlight reel. I'm stoked you guys are all here. Thank you all for coming. This is awesome. This is the first creative meetup event, and excited to be doing it. So thank you all for coming. And yeah, it's been a dream and a vision to do something like this for a while. So thanks for all showing up. Yeah, I'm really stoked to introduce him and hear what you have to share here. So thanks for coming to do this. And yeah, floor is yours.
Well, thanks everyone. And like Cullen said, the event is something we've together talked about for a while, because we're like, this would be really cool. We have a lot of friends we get to work with on projects, or we get to chat with about video, photo, other creative stuff as well. And like, how cool would it be just to bring them all together into one space and learn from one another and actually be friends? Rather than like this like awkward, like I kind of know them through Instagram, but I don't know what they're like. Are they approachable? Are they friendly? I don't know. Let's just be friends. Let's learn from one another. I am a firm believer that in Manitoba, there's enough work for all of us. Like, we don't have to be in competition with one another. We can actually like be collaborators and actually learn from one another, get better, and all succeed together. So, and bring one another in. So yeah, it's really cool. Thanks for coming out. So as I go through presentation today, I'm really excited to share on a topic I'm very excited about. But there will be Q&A at the end. So if questions come, or you have questions as we go, like just take a mental note or write them down or whatever, and then we'll ask them at the end. So yeah, so getting into this, making the most of a minimal camera kit, filming across the world. So this is something the last 2 years I've been involved in a lot and doing a lot. So I'm going to start with a bit of a background about me. So I've been working about 10 years now in different types. I say visual marketing because it hasn't always been video specific. That's what I do now, is mainly filmmaking, video stuff, but all kinds of visual marketing. I was at a few different marketing companies, agencies, things like that over the last 10 years, where I learned different things and then kind of led me to where I am today. So I'm currently half-time lead video producer at a not-for-profit Christian mission sending organization called Multiply. So I do work with them, and they have missionaries all over the world. I get to film and capture their stories and do that kind of thing. And then I have my own business I started 2 years ago called Root Visuals, which basically was the coming together of my why, like why I feel passionate, why I exist, what I exist to create, and which is very tied into my faith. And then also like this love of video and love of beautiful imagery, and wanting to do that at a really high level, bring those two things together to work with businesses and organizations that are seeking to make the world a better place. So that's kind of my mission vision with Root Visuals. So I do a lot of other stuff, commercial work. I've done weddings the last few years, but really like my marketing and everything centered around, hey, this is the kind of clients I want to work with, is businesses and organizations like that. So, and then this past year, I had the amazing privilege, like seriously a phone call that really rocked my world, from a director who asked me to be a cinematographer on this documentary series called Missionary Obeying the Great Commission. And I'll talk a bit about that. So these are some stills from filming. There I am in front of a volcano filming the guys. It was really cool. So it's a 6-part docu-series, 45-minute episodes. It releases this October. It'll be available to like buy and watch on like Amazon or Apple, places like that. But we filmed over about 40 days this past year. So it was a lot of travel, a lot of time away from my family, who sacrificed for me. And yeah, we were on about 8 trips in 13 countries. So we filmed all over the world, and there was challenges that came with that. And also reasons that, yeah, like I think that made what I did a very good fit for the job. And so I'll be sharing some of those things today. So here are some of the things. So some of the challenges that we were considering going on this project. So packing light. There's times where, we gotta travel on foot to locations, even just traveling through airports by myself. I'll talk more about each of these in detail, but packing light was a thing. I was thinking about busy schedule, so going to these places, limited number of days, lots to film. That's a factor to think about. replacement gear access. Some remote locations, there's no B&H, there's no Best Buy, there's no Henry's Photo. So like getting new gear, if it breaks, is an issue. Drone laws around the world are completely different. Environmental noise, well, when you're filming in public areas, there's noise to deal with. Weather, of course, unpredictable. Limited lighting gear, again, packs. I only had so much room to bring stuff with me. And then camera audio monitoring, I'll talk more about those issues I ran into. And then also gear malfunctioning, which just happens, whether you're here or away, it doesn't really matter. But I'll talk a bit about the few issues that came up there. So first of all, I gotta talk about this bag. I have it here, so if anyone wants to check it out later. But this is the bag that made this trip possible, I would say, or made all these trips possible. I actually switched to it, I think, maybe a couple of trips in. But it's the Shape Pro video camera backpack. I think it's actually a Canadian company, Shape. And there's a few reasons we changed to it. I'll talk about those later again, but just a basic for those who care about video, care about gear, I'm gonna rip through this because it's not for everybody, but I had, so 2 mirrorless camera bodies in there. I had 4 lenses plus ND filters. My gimbal, I got the DJI RS3 Mini, so nice small gimbal. Tons of Rode Go stuff. You can see 5 transmitters, 2 receivers, 4 mics. In-ear monitors to monitor audio, just adhesive stickies I used with the Rode Go. I had a monitor, a 5-inch monitor to monitor what I was filming, and then all the batteries, attachments, cables, chargers, all those things. And then in my checked suitcase, I had different options depending on the trip. Depending on the length of the trip, I took different size suitcases. But in there, I could fit my drone, as well as on a couple of trips, I took a smaller light, and on at least one trip, I took a bigger light. And then the suitcase was also long enough for like my travel tripod and 1 light stand. So that's kind of like a very typical gear. But like with that all packed in there, like I was able to carry everything kind of in one go, not taking multiple trips, traveling through airports and everything, just by myself. So yeah. Getting into some of the challenges, and I wanted to bring up the bag first because it's going to address some of the challenges, but here I am being a slacker and not actually carrying my bag, and someone else is carrying it for me, but very nice guy. But yeah, packing light. So we had hikes, multiple kilometers to different locations sometimes. This is in Vanuatu, and that's just what you have to do. There's airport transit. One of the big issues I've had traveling before with different packs, different suitcases, is like actually just getting from gate to gate. Like how am I, like I just want to make it easy on my back. So this bag has, as you can see, the handle pulls out and it's got wheels. So that was really nice, really important. But it also has the straps that can come out and turn into a backpack if you're on like terrain like this. So I really wanted to be able to carry all my bags, my clothes, my gear, and my computer backpack without any help. I wanted to just be able to do it all myself. And so yeah, this was the solution here, is to get a camera backpack that really did that. So yeah, another challenge was our busy schedule. Let me just scroll here. So yeah, our days were packed with filming, and we had limited amount of days for each place we were going to. And so we were often moving quickly from one location to another. And sometimes it'd even be like, we're in England and the next location is walkable from where we were. So like, it's like, hey, let's go, let's move. And along the way, you have to get B-roll. So I was actually shooting my B-roll as we were going from location to location. I should also mention the crew, because this is important too, was these 2 guys. So they were the hosts of the show. They're basically the ones narrating the entire story the whole time on location. And then it was me behind the camera, and then a director. So that was our crew, 4 guys. And yeah, so there's limited time at each location. And so basically the solution here was having a camera setup that was easy for run and gun. Lately, I've enjoyed shooting a lot of projects handheld, kind of using that natural camera movement with the handheld look. But on this project, just because of how quick things were, and I knew that these shots with the guys, I had to have on a gimbal. So I just basically kept it on the gimbal, did all my B-roll like that, rather than detaching, reattaching. There was times where I did easily just slide it off, get some handheld shots, slide it back on. But yeah, for the most part, that's what I was using, and it was really easy on the go. Also, the small little mic pack from the Rode Go is like, I never had to take it off, which was great. The only thing I would do is if I was shooting B-roll, is I would take out the cable so I could just get some of that ambient audio, and it was really easy to just like pop it in, pop it out, pop it in, pop it out. And so, yeah, so that was kind of the setup I had. So the solution is just really easy setup, could be left on the camera. So yeah, a shot of us in India here. So yeah, replacement gear access, thinking about, hey, we're gonna go to places, what if any piece of my gear breaks down? And so the solution there was just backups for everything. So all the main pieces at least. So I was shooting with an A7S III for the most part, but I had my A7 IV as my backup camera body. I had 4 lenses, so most of it was done with kind of like a medium variable lens, but I had lenses that could replace that if the lens broke. With mic packs, I had, like I said, multiple receivers, transmitters, cable, like actual mics themselves. So if any of those broke down, I had backups. Some of them were still even in boxes, just in my bag, but you just don't want to take a chance on a project like this. So I just had backups for every piece of equipment, except for my drone, but I figured if the drone went down, it's just too bad, so sad. I guess we'll just look for another option. But at least the core, the key stuff had to be able to be replaced. So yeah, that was what we did there. Skipped ahead. Oh yeah, drone laws. So this picture right here, you might be able to guess what's happening, but that's me in the Zambia airport, and they are taking my drone away. And they just babysat it for a few days. I got it back when I left the country. But something I ran into on this project was that every country has unique drone laws. And it's a really wide range, actually, of restrictions. Like some countries is like this. So this one, I did my best. I went online, I did my research, what's required. They had like this nice website, all the process lined out. I was too late in the process probably to apply, but I still tried. But I was looking on the website, I'm like, where's the button to apply? Like you got all this information, but where's the button? And there was no button at all. There's no way to contact them. Actually, there was an email I found, and I reached out, but I never heard back, haven't even heard back to this day. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go with it and see what happens, and this is what happened. So you just don't know, and then in some countries I was able to get full registration, full licensing, like in UK it was really easy, and in the EU it was really easy. But yeah, it's just, I would say, if you're running into this situation, just look into the laws as far in advance as possible. There's really good like websites that kind of have a database of all the countries. I think UAV Coach is one of them. And it's kind of got links for each country. But yeah, look into it as far in advance and use the proper channels if you can. But sometimes you can't even get there. Like drone laws are just so new. And a lot of countries haven't caught up with that yet. So yeah. Environmental noise. So I would say most of the areas we shot in were public spaces. So there's people walking by, there's vehicles, there's motorcycles. And even sometimes in our remote areas, we'd be in like the bush or something, right? And you'd be recording and the guys are nailing their lines, and all of a sudden there's a really weird bird call that comes out of nowhere. And you're like, like that's just too obvious. And so I know it's a really lame solution, but patience. We had to do takes like 20 times sometimes just to get the lines nailed. And there's a few different options with that too, like shooting multiple angles so you can cut between takes, or filling that with B-roll after. But you just have to embrace the noise too sometimes. Like in a shot like this, if you see the bicycle go by, that's fine. And I always say is like, it's okay if there's that ambient noise as long as the viewer can understand and see what's going on. Because their mind subconsciously kind of fill in that gap. And they're like, oh yeah, of course there'd be a honk, or of course there'd be a motorcycle noise going by. But it's when it's not in the shot that it gets kind of distracting. So yeah, in Taiwan especially, this is in Taiwan, beautiful set. I mean, like, this looks like a movie set, but this was just a street we found. But like, there was motorcycles, a lot of motorcycles, and so that was a big challenge. Sometimes in places like that, you know, you'd have people looking into the camera behind being like, what's going on? Are these guys movie stars? No, just ordinary dudes. Yeah, so it was really cool. But it takes patience sometimes. Weather, it was a thing too. So we had quite a bit of rain, decent amount of rain. One day in Belgium there, you see my face. I was really grumpy that day, guys. That was actually like legit. I was super upset. So one of my solutions here is lots of microfiber cloths. Well, that day I was walking, I was wiping, it was getting soaked already, the cloth. And then all of a sudden, it falls onto the ground right into a puddle, and I was just like fuming on the inside, and I had to like hold it in to not, you know, look unprofessional. Yeah, lots of microfiber cloths. And then gear that holds up. I was super impressed with this whole setup, really. Like the Sony system, the lens, the lav mic packs, even the small HD monitor, it all held up under tons of rain, like soaked. And I would just wipe it off after, wipe it off in between takes. The lens, just give it a quick wipe in between takes. And yeah, we just rolled through. So having gear that holds up is key. I know it's not really much of a solution, it just is what it was, but I was very happy that it did hold up. So talk about lighting for a bit. So like I said, just didn't have a lot of space in my luggage for everything. And so to bring lights along too, like the director encouraged me, he's like, yeah, you know what, like let's just try to do our best with what we've got, like natural lighting wise. And I have a ton of experience doing this sort of thing in different countries and not bringing lights along. And so just leaning into natural light a lot of times. So here you see like, I think the only thing we did in this shot is we had one of my tiny lights bouncing off the ceiling right here and down. This looks like a negative fill, if anybody's familiar with that. That's just a TV. That's right there. That's just a big TV, 50-inch TV. So that we had, it didn't have an impact on the shot. But yeah, so like, and then here you see, you know, I just had my one tripod and a gimbal for the shot. So this is how we did every interview. We had a tight angle on the gimbal, kind of going back and forth, creating a bit of motion. And then this kind of like, we called it a Netflix-y shot, but it's a really wide 20 millimeter shot that looks very, you know, studious. Fun fact about this shelf, we spent like half an hour completely taking everything out of that shelf and filling it with old books. I have a time lapse of it if anyone wants to see it later, but yeah, that's completely a staged shelf. And so, yeah, we just made the most of what we had. And in this next photo, I actually have a breakdown of kind of our typical setup. So I built this actually for some of the interviews on this project are getting done in the States by a different cinematographer, but I built this for them. So basically using natural light and or like a 120D or a 300D, some kind of light as a key light. And then sometimes a secondary light in the back just to kind of light the background or create some more interest or rim lighting on the subject. And then, yeah, we kind of always had them looking to a director interview. We flipped this 50-50. So some of the interviewers were looking, you know, that way. Some of them were looking this way. Yeah, camera op. And then sometimes we were able to find even like a board or different things at wherever we were to use as negative fill. And that's basically, for those of you who don't know, it's just creating more contrast on this side of the face. And I'm a huge fan for getting into lighting nerdiness here, but like I really like reverse lighting in all my interviews. So this tight shot, you'll see the light is hitting them from the reverse side. It's very cinematic, very like a lot of movies you see that in. So yeah, that's kind of like what we did for lighting. And so we just leaned into natural light as much as possible. Actually on this particular one, I also had my 120D along. So I did have a key light to use with this guy. So yeah. Camera monitoring. So one of the things I was thinking about, and I think I'll talk about in a bit, but I actually ran into some issues later. I'm not gonna spoil it now, but is that we're only in the country once. Well, there's lots of resources invested in getting us there, and so we want to nail it. So every night, for example, we were reviewing footage along the way. We were checking the footage. Does it look good? Does it look fine? Along the way, I'm always, of course, monitoring the audio, making sure there's no pops or clicks or that kind of thing. And then, another thing we did just as a safety net was shoot multiple takes. Even if it was a good take, we would do it again or again. The guys, there was a joke at one point, you nailed it, let's do it again. That was like the ongoing joke. So that was one of the things that we were trying to keep in mind is like, hey, we got to make sure to monitor this well along the way. Otherwise, we might not get it. We might not have it. And so, some of the gear challenges that make you think about that is, so I did have a gimbal breakdown. Luckily, it wasn't while we were in a country. It was in between trips. So basically the gimbal broke down, but it was kind of working, but kind of not. So I actually on one trip brought 2 gimbals. So I brought my other one, and actually I had to use the backup on that trip. There were lots of lav mic issues, so it's a good thing we were monitoring it. As great and small as the Rode Go 2 is, it's not a super high level professional lav mic. So there were some issues, lots of clicks, some disconnecting transmitters, like where it's cutting in and out. There's like a high pitched frequency noise that we ran into a few times. So like just things like that, where just having many backups, and also I was able to firmware update some of those issues away. But that was another thing we ran into. And then here's the thing about monitoring like the screen. So I got, as the trips went on, I started with an external monitor, and I was doing that because I was like, hey, let's just start with the right setup. And as the trips went on, I'm like, you know what? It's actually easier to have run and gun without the external monitor, because it just was like the cable was getting in the way sometimes. I'd like go low and it's like, now I have to adjust the monitor angle, and it's just, so I got rid of it because the A7S III camera or screen is actually quite good. I think it's quite bright. It's pretty sharp. And so I was just getting confident, just exactly this setup, just using that as my screen. And then we had a day where we filmed in, it was Scotland or Belgium. I was on that trip, and we got back in the footage, and we got to see the focus hunting that was going on. So like it was jumping from the subjects to these trees because it was the winter time and the trees were kind of like leafless. And so it was actually catching those trees, thinking, hey, there's a lot of contrast here. I want to focus on that. And so that was, the pit in your stomach. Like we just finished a full day of filming. So hard lesson to learn. After that trip's like back to the monitor. We were also like, reviewing it after good takes after that, making sure there wasn't any focus hunting. One of the other things we were able to do for the Sony users is we were able to just change the focus settings too, like to turn focus shift off completely. So I was able to focus tracking off completely. The shift, subject shift sensitivity off. That's what it's called. And so basically then it wouldn't switch from the subject you have selected. And so it was just simple change, but there's a few solutions there that we end up using. I also started shooting more manual focus after that, just being like, if they're gonna stay at the same distance, we're good. So let's just not even deal with continuous focus. There are some cool shots in the documentary where continuous focus came in handy, where we're like moving through spaces and like it really helps. But there was times where we just needed to go with manual focus. And then here's a bonus issue, jet lag, long days, solutions, coffee, energy drinks. Has anyone had caffeine gum before? Gross. The director, Steven, he's like a caffeine junkie, and he would have caffeine gum, and it's just like military grade gum that tastes completely bitter. It's just, there's no flavor, it's just bitterness. Gross. And then for bedtimes, melatonin, just getting that cycle back in line. That's it for the main presentations, a little bit about that, but open to Q&A. Questions? Yes?
What did your data management look like?
Oh yeah.
After shoots?
Yeah. So at the end of each day, we backed up. So I would back up onto a hard drive, an SSD, and then the director would also back up all that footage on an SSD with him. So we actually had 2 copies in different rooms with different people. And going home, he goes home to the States and I go home to Canada. So we're in different like physical locations. So we got all the footage now, and yeah. So that's kind of what our process. And also I'm always shooting double SD cards too. So it's recorded onto 2 SD cards. Yeah. Yes?
What surprised you the most shooting this project?
Oh wow, that's a good question. Or one of the things that surprised me. Yeah. I think like there, like from the storytelling standpoint, I think like 2 things. There was like the stories that these guys told, or that were told in these episodes. I had no idea about some of these individuals and the extraordinary lives they lived. And so I think that was a huge surprise, being like, wow, like these are stories worth telling. Like I didn't even know going. I just kind of got a script and, filmed them. And so they had amazing stories. That was really cool. And I think, what surprised me was just how often things work out when you here's a few locations and you just like, there's so many times where like you just are kind of in awe, like as if we are here filming at this moment and the sunset's like that. Or like Victoria Falls, we're at the perfect amount of flow that we weren't getting soaked, and they also weren't a trickle. And even in the rain, it's just like, I was so happy to be in England filming, right? Like it's just, so I think and personally I think I was surprised at how much that like I just came alive doing projects like this. So that was really cool. I think I thought I would, but being there was something else. So yeah, I'll probably think of more things, but that was a good question. Yeah.
So speaking of locations, did you do any of the scouting, or was it all pre-planned?
Yeah, so everything was pre-scripted on this project, which is really cool. They had a writer, they worked with a writer on like scripts like you'd see in a movie where it's like in the Courier font and the different people with their names and what they're saying. And so everything was scripted, including locations. Some of the locations changed, but it would say like this location, daytime, And so those places were already preset because it's a historical documentary. A lot of those places they already knew ahead of time. Hey, this is where this person lived. This is where they first, served in a church, or like this is where they lived overseas. Those kind of places were all already known, and so we were able to visit those locations. And also, director Steven has actually been to a bunch of these spots, at least the ones in Europe and England, because he's worked on a bunch of other historical documentaries where he'd already visited some of these locations. So I didn't get to scout any locations. I got to be along for the ride, like, where are we going now? And then like show up and like, hey, how do we make this pretty? And that was my job. So yeah. Good question. Yeah. Yeah, I do. I have insurance on everything. So it actually covers, so I have my business insurance, it's through Front Row Insurance. Maybe some of you guys have that or have heard of it. But it's worldwide, which is great. And so, or at least the coverage, the policy I have is worldwide. And so that covers all my gear around the world. And then specifically for drone stuff, I've got, I forget who I went with, but if you're interested, you can reach out. But also had worldwide coverage as well for drone liability and crashes. It's not, the deductibles on all my insurance policies aren't worth replacing a drone. It's too high, you just might as well buy a new drone, but at least it covers me liability wise, yeah. And for some of the places to get registration, you need to prove insurance as well. So I had to submit that as part of the application, yeah. Good question. Yes?
You were saying for some of the mic issues you were having, like some of them were like updates, some of them were just using a different device.
Yeah.
Was that the case for most, but you could just switch devices and you just didn't have problems anymore, or like on the spot? Yeah.
Well, one time we landed on one of the trips and I put the mics on the guys and it wasn't working right away. So I was like, okay, we're in the car driving to the next location, and that's often how it worked. We were in a vehicle, driving to the next spot, we're setting up, getting ready. And so, I just did a quick troubleshoot, okay, is it the mic cable, like the microphone itself, or is it the transmitter? And I just like swap them out and figure it out. And then be like, okay, well, I guess we're not using that one for this trip. Toss it in a different spot of my bag. Yeah, just not mess around. So then deal with it when I get home, figure it out. Yeah. And sometimes it was actually just the mic cable was like frayed or whatever internally had broken a little bit. And so that just goes in the garbage. There it goes, you know, $80, $100, but it's all part of the job, so.
Did the firmware update fix that high pitch sound?
Yeah, it did.
Because we had so many problems with that DJI kit, we threw it away.
Oh yeah, you had a DJI. Yeah. So exactly. So I did solve the problem. Yeah.
Didn't for us.
Yeah, that's weird. Yeah. I think I've also had that issue maybe with when it's like with like a little bit of moistures in there. Yeah, I think it fixed it for me. Yeah, from what I remember. I hadn't updated them at all though, so it was time.
Question on when you're working with clients and sometimes they have a vision or something they throw at you and you're like, I don't know how good that would look. How do you spin that into something that looks good?
That's a good question. Well, okay, I'll say on this project, it was amazing. So Steven, the director, is an accomplished filmmaker, has made many films that have been seen by thousands, millions of people. But he was like the cinematographer on those as well. So I felt a little intimidated coming in, but he was like, no, you're talented. He was just always affirming, always empowering, and he didn't even like care what I was doing. He trusted me and he just let me roll, which was really cool. And sometimes I'd collaborate with him, but just generally, I would say what I do is I say, that's an interesting idea. Yeah, we can try it. Let's try it, and I'll film it and then just not use it. I mean, it's cost you so little, right? Like, I mean, it's kind of a sneaky way to gain their trust and whatever, and be like, hey, that's a good idea, or like, hey, like, yeah, that's a good idea. How about we take that and just change it a bit, and then just being working off of what they give you. So yeah, that's a good question. I'm just manipulating. I don't know. Yeah, and then you have that shot if they ask about it later too. So. Which I don't know if that's happening. Yeah.
Okay, who was your most interesting person you met on your?
Oh wow. On this trip?
Anything you've done.
Oh yeah.
Is there somebody that just sticks out that's, I don't know.
Okay, well, the one that pops up from this trip is so one of the missionaries we highlighted was a woman by the name of Amy Carmichael who worked in India, and she like basically rescued women out of sex trafficking and brought them into a school and into community, into life and jobs, and it's an amazing woman. And so we went to the place, it's called Donover Fellowship, I believe. It's this big, massive property. It's now like a boarding school, but one of the old ladies who works there was actually rescued by that missionary. She's like the only one like left that works there, but it was really cool to actually like be like, wow, you were impacted by this historical figure that she was like 2 years old when she was brought in, but still it was really cool. So that was an interesting person to meet for sure.
Did you capture her?
Yeah, we did a quick interview with her because we wanted to get her to talk about Amy, who is the figure that we were capturing, although she just doesn't really remember her because she was 2, you know. So in that interview might work, might not. But we captured it anyway. So yeah.
All right. Can we give him a round of applause?
Yeah.